Welcome to Manna from Heaven with your girl Sharon Gaines Lee. I am so happy you are here today as I continue this series with Karla Cruel. It is such an interesting discussion on Blacks working together with each other in the community and the stereotypes that need to be dismissed and admonished. I said in my opening broadcast that this interview is geared towards Black people, but honestly, it's meant for all people. So join in with me today and eat the manna. Chew on the manna, chew on the word, glean from it. Learn how we can all work together, grow together, and make our relationships with our community and our world a better place. So come on and eat. Come on and eat and join in with me. Come on, you can glean. There's a lot to glean here. Come on. Come on. Hello, Karla Cruel. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming back to answer some questions that people have sent in. And I thought you were the perfect person since it since I pulled from what you wrote on social media. And so negative, and I wanted to start with negative racism, racial stereotypes and their effects on our attitude towards African Americans. This is what we're addressing today. As
Okay.
human beings, we naturally evaluate everything that we come in contact with. We especially try to gain insight and direction from our evaluation on others. Would you say?
Yes, definitely.
Stereotypes are cognitive structures that contain the perceiver's knowledge, their belief, and their expectations about human groups. And there were stereotypes throughout history, Carla. You would know this. We had stereotypes about Jim Crow, Sambo, and Jemima Sapphire. That was a movie in the 1950s that depicted a black woman as being bold and bossy and just aggressive. And so
Mhm.
now we're addressing, and there are other stereotypes I just pulled from those, but now we're addressing blacks against blacks.
To
And
to get in my mind to give in to any notion of division, the way that I'm dividing you because of the color of your skin, right? I'm dividing you. I can go through a list of things, right? You're
yeah,
not like what I was going to say earlier when I had lost my train of thought too. In addition, is the separation that you have between people of African descent in the
mhm,
Caribbean versus the people of African descent in the United
yeah,
States
yeah.
of America versus people of African descent in
Mm-hmm,
Europe, right? And we
mm-hmm,
do all of this. My experience is different from yours, or
mm-hmm.
why don't y'all do this? And it's like it in my head, it's like the um and John, like the Johns repeatedly, but I think it's First John. He's like, you, they will know of your love for God
Mm-hmm.
based on how you love other
One
people,
another. Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
This,
Mm-hmm.
like this is stop saying you even know God if you
Right.
can't love other people. And
Yeah, yeah,
so,
yeah. And
and
he didn't say other people who look like you, other people in your community. He said
correct.
across board people, right?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Exactly. And every time I think of like Jesus was so that maybe my like if I had to sum it all up, Jesus was so countercultural, right?
Mm,
So much of what he did was countercultural.
that's right.
Um, if that's the case, think about what the culture was
Mm-hmm.
hierarchical, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's some greed that was going on around there, right? So he comes in poor because they were greedy.
Yeah, yeah,
He,
yeah.
you know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? He
Mm-hmm.
he came in as a carpenter because they were hierarchical.
Yeah, yeah,
No,
that's right.
there's no way that someone from God like that, our Messiah, could come from this poor, trashy place. Like, you can't be from the ghetto and be from God. It was hierarchical. And he was like, but I can be, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
don't let the little kids around. He's like, bring the little kids in, right? And he was so countercultural. So in my head, racism is so deeply embedded in the US culture
Mm-hmm.
specifically, so
Mm-hmm.
infused into every part of it.
Mm-hmm.
If you say you love God and you want to be Christ-like, be countercultural. For
Yeah.
no other reason than that, you have
Mm-hmm.
to love your neighbor, right?
Yes.
It
Mm-hmm.
seems simple to me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Carla, we can go off on this. This is getting good, girl. I'm listening. I got questions coming, but this is going to be another podcast. But I have to get into these questions that
I'm
people
done.
ask. Okay. No, you're not, but we'll get back to it. But I want to ask some questions. Some of the questions that were sent in, Carla, were pertaining to children. And so one
Mhm.
question was, I'm presuming it was a lady, but a man could have written this. And the question was, how can we teach children about racism? How can we teach children about racism? What's the best method you would say to go about that? What's your suggestion?
So this I think that it's important to distinguish age. I think it's very important to distinguish age, because I think if you start to introduce racism too early, you
Mm-hmm.
get the child race focused,
Mm.
right? And so, and the reason I say this is we don't really understand how children learn how to speak. We just
Mm-hmm.
know that one day they start mimicking what mom and dad does. But when it
Mm-hmm.
came out, they were goo goo
Yeah, yeah.
gaga, right?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting enough, if you've been around babies of different nations, they all say goo goo gaga until they hear and
Mm-hmm.
are learning from the person, the people that are
Right.
around them, right? And that's how
Mm-hmm.
they gather language. When a child is much younger, I think the best way to start to prepare your children to think about, talk about, and understand racism is to have the children play with children of other
Oh,
race,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Not you don't have to read a book. You can show them TV shows with different groups of people in there, but just let the kid be a kid with
Mm-hmm.
another race of people. Because what's going to happen is naturally, after a while, they're going to ask the question, why does he look different from me?
Mm-hmm.
Why is his color different from me? Because when they start learning the crayon colors,
Mm-hmm.
right? Just like my godson was like, "Oh, we're black, Aunt Carla's white," and I was like, "No, she's not." He's like,
Mm-hmm.
but in his head, somebody said, "When you get to this certain color in the crayon box, those are white people,
Mm-hmm.
and these are the black ones," right?
Mm-hmm.
So when then they went into the whole concept of they started to, because now he's at the point where he can articulate and ask questions, and you want it to be a dialogue, right?
So that's when we introduced my book, TT the Color Calico Cat. Plug.
Right, right.
Carla, you
And
know what you were saying with the color. I can remember when my son, when Herbie was little, and I used to say and we would talk about the black people, white people that came up, and he was upset. He got so stressed over the fact that we called ourselves black people. He was like, "We're not black," because I thought about the crayon box. He said, "We're
yes,
brown. Why do you keep saying we're black?" And I said,
that's right.
"Honey, that's the way." He said, "But we're not black. This is black." And he took out the crayon. He said, "We're brown."
That's and that's exactly right, because this is the that's why I said, first step is let the kids just play,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Because when you start once you start talking about race and racial dynamics, this is why I love being a teacher, and I
Mm-hmm.
love kids.
Right.
They start to say, "This is stupid. This is you're
The
when you
guile's not there.
yeah, they don't, they're like, it doesn't make sense. I've already played with this kid and we had so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
I and now you're trying to tell me that that person is worse than me, or that person hates me. That's not, they're kind of like, that's not possible,
Right.
because I've experienced
Them.
something already different.
Mm-hmm.
So for you guys to keep doing this doesn't make any sense to me,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're, if especially if you are talking about a white child, right,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to get a whole bunch of, we black children get subliminal messages, white children get subliminal messages as well.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But um if the goal is to change the dynamic,
Yeah.
right, we
Mm-hmm.
we want to change the paradigm of what exists today.
Mm-hmm.
First, I still say for both sets of children, it's important for them to play and engage each other. And, not just white, but Native American. I'm going to use black and white a lot, but please know in my head, I am
Oh.
not,
Mm-hmm.
you know, You got Asian American. The fact that we even say Asian American, like when you go to England, they're British, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, we're Brits. Okay. And they may say ignorant stuff after that, but you listen to their voice and you say they're British, right?
Right.
But you can listen to our voices here and you're like Chinese American, Black American.
Right.
So the point is, like, so with children, if you have, at a young age, just let them play together. Then you get to an age of cognitive questioning where they you start to answer their questions. That I think that you start to introduce not necessarily the negative bad, but the concepts of different nations, different cultures, different points. Okay. Then there's a point in which you'll know this with your child. Your child starts to ask slightly deeper questions, and they start wondering, like, they'll see a person sleeping on the street and they're like, well, Mom, why is that person sleeping on the ground? That it's dirty. You told me I can't do that. And you're like, oh, well, they're homeless. Well, why in the world are they homeless? Well, that now this is where usually the problem happens, right? At this very moment, because we've been indoctrinated with stereotypes and sometimes lies to perpetuate a narrative of less than, better than, blah, blah, blah. Right. And particularly, for white audience who are really thinking about this is literally the moment. Oftentimes what people will say is, depending on whatever their political bent they're going to put in their bent. Oh, he's homeless because, he's lazy, that, he's not a hard worker, blah, 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 blah. And that's how he ended up here. On the other side is, the government has been against us, has always been so hard and makes things difficult, right? And so you start putting your experiential blah, 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 instead of saying, I don't actually know why person is there. But it's unfortunate because there are some things in our society, and these are all the different possibilities, but I don't know this man, right? Immediately humanize that person for the child, right? You also engage the kid's curiosity, because now you have made this child think, this is something I don't like. I want to start having solutions to it. But oftentimes adults do is they indoctrinate the kids with whatever they experience. And so here's where I'm going to come from with this. I was very, very aware of my Blackness and racism before kindergarten, right? That's 5 years old. I went to a African-centered fifth kindergarten, right? So we were like, Harambe Institute, we're learning about
right.
I still remember it. I am 44 years old and I still remember, right? We're the first nation on this earth, right? And it was like super. So, but what that did was, and then I went to an elementary school there are good things that go along with this. Please know that there's a good and a bad, but I'm going to tell you why I'm saying what I'm saying. Okay. So I go to my elementary school. I had an elementary school that, unlike some other people's elementary schools, I now realize that this was a gift. They showed us so many movies, black and white movies with Black people in them, that the concept of representation, right, wasn't as big for me
because as it was for me.
Right, because we would watch, it's second grade, and they're like, okay, we're gonna watch the movie this week, and it would be stormy weather with Lena Horne in it. You know what I mean? So that's what I mean. Okay, so here's the thing. I was so race focused that everywhere I went, everything I did, I was always thinking about how those people hate me. So I'm 7 years old, I'm 8 years old, and in my mind, I know I'm high yellow. So yellow versus brown skin. So I had already learned the color. Oh, they like you because you're light skinned. Oh, they don't like
where did you get that from? Did you get that from home? The color? thing?
The colorism, absolutely. And we actually did have someone, an older woman that lived across the street that did the brown paper bag test on our
Yeah,
family.
right. But that wasn't
So
your generation.
no, but she lived across the street, so she used to give magazines to me and Kyle, but
Okay.
she would not talk to Tanya and Tawanda.
Yeah.
And so, and I asked the question, why does she bring gifts for us and only talk to us? And she would talk to my dad, but not talk to my mom, which is why my mom thinks she's very dark and she's not. But anyway, so
Or Tanya's wandering.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly the point. So I
Mm-hmm.
learned very young about colorism, but I
Mm-hmm.
also learned about racism. So in second grade, I was running off the mouth in my class, and my teacher told me to stop. And I was like, "You only treat me like that because I'm Black." And he's like, "All of the children." But what what I'm saying is, so I was hyper race
Yeah.
focused in
Mm-hmm.
elementary school,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the benefits is there's always been a confidence in me when I can be in a group filled, I'm the only Black person in there and I show up, right?
Mm-hmm.
But not in any way that
I
I'm
know
trying to,
exactly what you're saying.
you know what I mean? You're not
Yeah.
proving anything, but you
Mm-hmm.
also like, I don't belong
Mm-hmm.
here. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So anyway, that's why I think it's good to introduce it when the child begins to ask these cognitive questions that you can
Mm-hmm.
start thinking deeper, because then at that stage the kid is so far along with relationships with people of other cultures, right? And in his
Mm-hmm.
head he's picking the things that he likes culturally, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not based on what color I am, but like, this sounds terrible, but they start to pick it like they pick their clothing style. You know,
Mm-hmm.
when your
Mm-hmm.
son would,
Mm-hmm.
let me dress myself, and you're like, those colors don't match,
You
right?
look like Bozo the Clown, but okay.
Right? What are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
We kind of do that with our children, right? If
Yeah.
you have a kid who's super into, like, if you have a white child who's
Mm-hmm.
super into Black, quote unquote, Black hip
Yeah,
hop
yeah.
culture, when he's young, it's like, no, remember, you're white and we behave like this and they behave like that. You
Mm-hmm.
immediately introduce stereotypes, you immediately introduce racism,
Mm-hmm.
versus them like, oh, I love this, and then they may be like, let's say they're a little bit slow, right? They haven't
Mm-hmm.
caught on the whole color
Mm-hmm.
racism thing yet, but they got friends of different colors, right? And
Mm-hmm.
they go hang out. I'm a white kid. I go hang out with a group of Black kids. I'm doing, and they're like, "Yo, that's appropriation. Appropriation of what? What are you talking about? I love hip hop, right?" Kids will go there and have the conversation, but they will continue to talk until they heal.
Yeah.
Children do.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Grown-ups take stuff so personally, blah, 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 blah. I think that if we left kids alone and didn't put all of our junk inside of them,
Mm-hmm.
right? They're going to separate for different reasons, but I'm going to tell you, more likely than not, color of their skin is not going to be that one.
That's exactly right.
Adults introduce that into
Mm-hmm.
adults introduced it into
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, I taught, preschool for 16 years, and what you're saying is accurate. And I love the, the way you put it with letting the kids play together, because kids fall in love first with each
Yes,
other. They fall in love first. And then out of that love, everything else comes from that. You can impart things into them, but they already love each other.
that's right.
They
That's right.
already love each other. So I like how you said that. That was good. That was clever, Carla. So I have one more question. I mean, I think you asked this question pertaining to kids, and is what is the wrong way of saying I don't? What is wrong with saying I don't see color? But you sort of address that, don't you think? Would you
Yeah,
want to say
I have, but I'll be very poignant, right?
that?
Because I've
Mm-hmm.
had conversation with people before.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with saying you don't see color is that it's a lie. It's a blatant lie. And the reason is that you can identify the color of your car. You can identify the color of your shirt. Like, you get dressed and say, okay, today I want to wear a blue suit, right?
Yeah.
You do see color. So if
Yes.
you're a child, I don't see color, then they're going to be like, oh, are you blind? Like,
Ah,
if in the purity of it, they're like, you don't know this is orange, and you're like, no, I know that's orange, but I don't see color on people. And they're
Right.
like, of course you do. I see color on people.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's one. Number two,
Mm-hmm.
it is so I'm gonna say a secret that Black people know that white people don't know about themselves. Sorry, definitely Black Americans, right, or Black people of brown descent around the world will probably say this. Okay, and this is very, very, absolutely true of white Americans, especially if they have been grown up or have relationships with people of color.
Yeah.
White people, you can be blind to a human being. I mean, a Black person can be standing in front of you and y'all are walking down the street and you walk smack into the person and say, oh my God, I didn't see you. Right? Somebody, I've seen somebody actually do this study that you see what you want to see, you see what is pleasing to the eye, right? You hyper focus on that. If you are saying that you don't see color, you are saying that you don't see me, you don't see my culture, you don't see all the value that I've contributed to the society, that it wouldn't be where it is. You would not have jazz if not for me, right? And you wouldn't have blues. And if you think about what blues comes out of, that all of these things are coming out of these cultural experiences that you've decided that you don't see. And so, and I want y'all to know that when I talk about the blind to color, I'm not. I used to do experiments when I was in high school on white people all the time, trying to understand them. Right. My most fun was the hair smell thing, or the smell thing, but I figured out it was so I had this constant like watching, and then I would ask questions, and I had a number of good, close, trusted friends who were white. So I would go and ask the raw questions, and we would engage in the conversation, right? And so because they saw me and they know I saw them, and so they asked me questions too, and we got to know each other, right? And which
that is so healthy.
Yeah, how can you get to know me as a person, right, if you don't see my color? Yeah. Right. I see my color. And it really does erase our experiences. It erases our and I used to tell, how do I say this? So I think let's take white America. I mean, not white America. Let's take the United States of America. In the United States of America, we have all of these different people from these different nations, backgrounds, and then we have whittled them down to: are you Caucasian? Are you Black? Are you white? And then in there, Hispanic, non-Hispanic, which is like, so if I'm a Black Hispanic, I have to pick that I'm white and then Hispanic, right? If there's no Latino that's in the group, you know what I mean? So you go through all anyway. So we're told to put ourselves into all of these dumb little silly categories that don't really make any sense. Okay, because you've done that, culture has evolved out of that too, right? There's going to be a response to when you group people together. Watch kids in school, right? If you clump a bunch of kids together and you say, y'all are that, you are the good kids, you are the badly behaved kids, you are the blah blah blah, guess what they're gonna do? They're gonna act like that, right? They're gonna function
exactly
like that, right? They're gonna and it's gonna start to perpetuate that. Okay, so when you say I don't see color, you are not only ignoring the richness of our experiences, but you have to ignore the harms that you caused and that your people participated in, right? You're like, but that was so long ago. Yes, but you're still benefiting, and actually you had
you're still perpetuating a lie.
You are. It's just a lie, right? Like to ever say you don't see color is just a flat out lie, because you know that person isn't like you, right? and when you're honest with yourself, you're like, oh, I really wonder what that hair feels like actually.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I'm really like
But I'm
when
just
I'm
going to feel it on the side, like I'm checking your earrings, but
yeah, yeah, yeah,
feel
yeah.
your.
But I'm just so curious. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? But here's the
Hmm.
thing: when they were kids, if they lived in an all-white neighborhood, didn't they play in each other's hair? Right. So now they're like, ooh, more to play with. We're like, we're not your little toy,
You're
right?
right. Right.
However, you build a relationship with me, and you're like, hey, Karla, I have
Hmm.
questions because this is so new to me, and
Yes.
you know what? You've earned you have built a relationship. You have deposited in my bank as a human being.
Hmm.
So I'm going to deposit in your bank and explain to you some things about us that you weren't
Hmm.
exposed to, right?
Hmm.
And now we can both walk
Yeah.
away
Hmm.
better, right?
Hmm.
We can both walk away in a better. So and
Oh, I
so
love that. I love that what you're saying. I keep busting in you, but here we go.
that's
I
fine,
love that because I always love because I went to college. I went to a school that was predominantly white, and then went to college that was predominantly. I love being in those settings. It never intimidated me because I thought if white people wanted to know what black people were like, I wanted to show. I wanted to
right?
come right here. You know what I mean?
And and,
Because when I
and that's
Hey
beautiful,
everybody, thanks for joining me today on Manna from Heaven. I hope you are enjoying this serious discussions on black people working together with each other in community and the stereotypes that need to be dismissed and admonished. I hope the food feeds your soul. If you love this series, you can watch it again and again on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, Divinely Designed Women of Wisdom, DDWW, Divinely Designed Women of Wisdom. Here you will find and enjoy all of my broadcasts and podcasts. While checking out my channel, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. See you next week. Don't forget, subscribe, like, and share. Thank you for joining me. See you again next week. Bye.